Everybody. Nice to have you with us tonight. But if you're not muted, can you please mute? Great. Thank you. Well, nice to be back with Mark tonight, and good to see all of you. Thank you for coming and joining us. And I'm sure it's going to be another fabulous meeting. So our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a state from emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage other dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. If you can show your video image, please do, because I'll be looking at you while I do at least this first part. So tonight we're doing what's called the life review technique, and this is something that happens after a person passes on. That's very well established from near-death experiences, also life between live sessions, evidential mediums. So we have a good amount of clinical evidence that this is really part of what happens. And so the life review is kind of like looking at your life on TV, kind of like playing a DVD. And it's not at all punitive, like, why did you do this? It's educational. It's to show you so you can do better the next time. So I was taught this technique by Dr. Ken Ring, who is a pioneer in NDE research, University of Connecticut. And he found that well, first of all, it's one of the most transformative aspects of the NDE, having this life review. And this is one of the reasons why so many people come back afterwards, after clinical death, changed. If they're alcoholics, they're sober. If they were fire and brimstone preachers, they're preaching love, etc. And so one of the reasons is that people see firsthand that we reap what we sow, and it's very important to choose higher energy thoughts, words, and deeds. And having gone through the life review, then you can make this a mini thing that you do each day. One of the things I do before I go to bed and saying prayers is I just take 2 minutes and review my day. And it's like, yeah, that was good, Mark. Yeah, that wasn't so good. You could have done better there. And again, it's not self-critical. It's not punitive. It's just becoming aware. And the cool thing is that it's an energetic cosmos we live in. It's really all energy. Dr. Schwartz uses the term info energy universe. People like Tesla and Einstein, others talk about quantum energy and quantum fields. So that's what's really going on, this dance of energy. And then it can manifest in different ways, including what seems to be as, right now, solid and separate and mortal. But that energy can be, and those of you who have heard me before understand this, but it's so important, that energy can be low, frantic, chaotic, and things like hatred and anger and guilt and despair. Or it can be flowing like a sine wave, high, beautiful amplitude. and that's peace, joy, love, gratitude, compassion, and so on. And so when you have a life review, you see then the things that were really good, and that makes you feel heavenly. The things that weren't so good, that makes you feel more hellish. And that was actually one of the original Aramaic meanings of the words heaven and hell. How you feel after you pass on, and you sort through your life and not only see but feel what you did to others, good and bad. So again, it's not punitive, it is educational. So since we are beings of energy, and this is an energetic universe we live in, you can actually change your energetic template. And Dr. Ring and others that write about the life review give examples, and I do in my article number 45 at soulproof.com. Again, 45, and I give different examples of people who look back at something they did that wasn't so good, but by going through the life review and envisioning, here's what I would do now that I'm older, wiser, more aware, then that becomes your energetic template. In other words, it's almost as if you really did the best thing you could have. Um, it's like your sins are forgiven. Your lower energy acts get upgraded to higher ones. So anyway, this is all described in that article and also in the first track. And let me just take a moment and review resources. So here we are, first of all. Helping Parents Heal. Okay, so if you're not using this website, please do. There's just so much on it. But I'd like to bring your attention under the top tab, YouTube videos, and the affiliate leader / caring listener interviews. And we have the lovely Lynn and the motley Mark. And here are the interviews. 130 parents. If you've not listened to these, please do so. We took the best of and created this book, Shining Light Parents Speak, but every one of these parents has so much to share, so powerful. The other thing is under resources and then Shining Light resources. And Elizabeth and I put together all free resources. There's just so many things there waiting for you, no matter what you need. And then also caring listeners. And again, Lynn and I take care of this. And this wonderful group of 35 people who are there willing to talk with you. They're not trained therapists, but they will listen. They will share what worked for them. They will lead you toward resources. So make sure you use these resources, please. Also, I wanted to share, I was just sharing with Lynn before we started, article number 34 has a quote, departed loved one of yours returned to earth. And you may find it interesting, and 3 of the moms that I describe are HPH moms. So under articles, the top tab is how you find this life review technique. Again, number 45, the life review technique. How would yours feel today? And then also under shop, here are my 8 digital books, ebooks, 4 of them are audio books, and then 10 audio programs. And here's the one you're looking for. I can't even find it myself. What? Life review, oh, gosh, right there. The life review technique. All right, so if you click on that, then you'll see how to download this, and it's free. The low price of $0. So there's that. And then also I want to share with you the resources for the Greater Reality Healing, Living, Helping program. Now, to be clear, this is not to replace Helping Parents Heal by any means. Helping Parents Heal is number 1, 2, and 3 approach for parents with children who have passed. However, you may have, or you may know people who have other kinds of challenges, and that's what this exists for. Any kinds of big changes, it certainly can seem like losses from a limited human perspective. And then this is when the meetings are, how to join. If you click here, how to receive automatic updates, recordings. Just wants your first name and your email, and we definitely do not share any of that. So there's resources I wanted to share with you. All right, so we're going to use deep relaxation, guided imagery. Again, we'll do a shortened version of this, but under shop you can get the full version, music in the background. I think it's 45 minutes long. It's track 2, and then the first track, introduction, and it goes over the different things you can do to have an optimal visit. But for this mini approach, just the basics. You want it, and you don't have to do it now, but sitting up straight, feet flat on the floor, hands on your thighs. If you're lying down, you might fall asleep, and you don't want that. And also you want to make sure you drink some water so your lips, mouth don't get dry, because after we do contraction relaxation, your mouth will be open partly. And so we don't want your lips to get dry. Put on some chapstick. This isn't one that makes people feel emotional, but if you're really emotional, then have some Kleenex nearby. It'd be best not to have pets in the area. Some people really love having their pets with them, but that could detract. So you don't want anything detracting your mind, your consciousness, your soul from seeing the big picture of life and learning and growing here. So those are just some basic things to do. And if you think you may have to go to the bathroom, we're only going to do like 25 minutes. But if you think you might have to go to the bathroom during that time, please do so. Now, one of the reasons or one of the benefits of this life review technique is it helps you see yourself as your kids do, because keep in mind, they're seeing from a more cosmic viewpoint, what's called a less obstructed view of the universe. So we on Earth are looking through that tiny pinhole created by our brain that filters out 95% of reality. And that's why it's important to periodically quiet the brain so your real self can come through and remember the big picture of life and all the great news listed in article number 19 about the nature of reality. So that's how your kids are seeing you. And so we're going to look at two things. First of all, more positive things where you really took the high road. Your thoughts, words, and deeds were of higher energy type. And then we'll also look at two where they weren't so positive. And again, not judgmental or critical at all, especially early on after your child's passing. I mean, all kind of people do all kind of things. They're doing the best they can. But now instead of carrying that around with you, like guilt or shame or whatever, you let it go. You release it. You make amends if that's needed, and then your energetic history changes and upgrades. And of course, that's going to make your kids super proud. So that's a really quick introduction. Any questions or concerns about that? Okay, at this point then, now let's have you blank your video, or Lynn, I don't know if you can do that for everybody. So that way you don't have to worry about, I mean, I'm the only one that's going to be having my eyes open, or should be. But this way you can close your eyes and let your mouth hang open, and even drool a little if you want. What the heck? Anything goes here. Uh, so, uh, so we start off by saying a little prayer, intending that we're all protected, guided, shielded by love and light, good and God, and also asking for assistance, that we receive assistance from our angels, guides, master teachers, and the light to have an optimal experience here. So now, sitting up straight, feet flat on the floor, hands on your thighs, let's begin by breathing slowly and deeply, focusing on my voice, and using the alternate contraction relaxation. We'll just do 5 or 6 areas. So let's begin with the legs and feet. Take a deep breath in and tense those muscles. Tense your legs and feet. Hold it, hold it. And as you exhale, let those muscles relax. And now the muscles of the buttocks and stomach. Take a deep breath in and tense up those muscles. Feel the tension. Notice how uncomfortable, unnatural that feels. And then as you exhale, how good it feels to let those muscles feel heavy, warm, and relaxed. Next, the muscles of the chest and upper back. Take a deep breath in and tense those muscles up. Hold it, and let it go. So that quickly you can feel a wave of relaxation starting through your body. Now the muscles of the hands and arms. Make a fist with each hand. Take a deep breath in and tense those muscles up. Hold that tension. Helps you remember how you don't want to be, and then as you exhale, how good it feels to relax. Now the muscles of the upper traps, upper back, raise your shoulders up toward your ears, tense up those muscles. Hold it, and relax. And finally, the muscles of the face. Take a deep breath in and squeeze your eyes together and clench your jaws and scrunch up your forehead. Just tighten all those muscles and exhale and relax. Now just take a moment, please, and notice if there are any areas of your body that seem to be still tense, and if so, contract and relax those on your own. Good. Now, using all of your different senses, see, feel, hear, and know, sense yourself at the top of a staircase. And as I count from 10 to 1, see yourself safely, securely stepping down one step to the next. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standing before an ornately decorated door, and you know this door represents a gateway to an even deeper state of consciousness. With my count from 3 to 1, see yourself opening the door easily and stepping through. 3, 2, 1. On the other side now, and seeing a beautiful nature scene with a path before you. Take a moment and luxuriate all of your senses, feeling the slight breeze and sunshine on your skin, hearing birds sing, smelling fragrance from flowers all around you, remembering just how beautiful life is. Good. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply, focusing on my voice. And now you find yourself walking along a path that you know has been waiting there for you to lead to another level of healing, remembering the big picture of life, transforming, finding, using, and sharing the silver linings to your life's biggest challenges. And as you walk along, you see before you a shallow stream. You hear the babbling of the water. You feel the moistness on your skin. With my count from 10 to 1, see yourself walking over a little bridge safely and securely. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On the other side, finding a comfortable bench and seating your body there as your spiritual support team surrounds you, your angels, guides, master teachers. Take a moment to enjoy the reunion with these dear ones who have known and loved you since the beginning of time, as they give you a healing shower, washing away any lower energy emotions and filling you with higher ones to charge you up, vitalize you for this experience. Good. They remain there to help you, because to have a powerful life review technique session, you need to first visualize yourself, pretend that your body dies. In other words, that's how you get to your life review. So it's your imagination, it's visualization, but they're there to help you with that, since that might be especially painful and scary for some of you. So with my count from 5 to 1, you'll become more deeply relaxed, and from that perspective, be able to visualize what I mentioned to you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First, picture, imagine, visualize your no longer needed earthly body. You've passed on in one way or another in this imaginary session. So picture that as clearly as you can. Now, fast forward a few days to your funeral or your memorial service, and hear what others are saying about you. See how they're reacting, and just take a few moments to visualize that a bit, please. Next step, before you go back to the light, which you never really leave, is observe your real self, your higher consciousness, your soul, is observing from above as your no longer needed body is lowered into the ground, or the ashes are dispersed, used, or stored if the body was cremated. Just take a moment and visualize that as clearly as you can, please. Good. And now let's go back to the light. Picture your infinite self, your real self, traveling from Earth to the afterlife realm through a sort of tunnel. Hear angelic music and perhaps a buzzing sound. Feel excitement, apprehension, or a mix of those, depending on how many times you've gone through the earth and then dying and into the light cycle before. But sense what this is like for you. Good. You're doing great. And now see, hear, feel, know the light embracing you. This is your true nature. God, love, however you look at it. You never really leave it, but when you're having an earthly experience, it sure can seem like it. And surrounding you, your angels, guides, master teachers, soulmates, and your loved ones, people and pets who have passed on before. And just take a moment and soak all that up and enjoy these dear ones. And now with your team of loved ones around you, see yourself seated in a special chair with sense assisting devices so that you can watch your life as though on a DVD player. You can hear what is said. You can feel what you felt or what you caused others to feel. You can fast forward, rewind, pause, or stop. After I count from 5 to 1, you'll be able to easily and clearly sense yourself in this place of life review and visualize what I suggest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First, consider a positive event after your child passed on, one in which you took the high road. You chose higher energy, thoughts, words, and actions. And take a few moments to review that, please. Good. Now, sense your spiritual support team and loved ones giving you high fives, cheering, shaking your hand, whatever, for a job well done, and pat yourself on the back as well. And now repeat for a second positive event that happened after your child passed or any time since then, where you took a higher energy path, higher energy thoughts, words, and deeds. Good. And again, sense your team giving you high fives, cheering you on, telling you, job well done. And next, let a less positive event float up for review. Remember, this is about healing and learning, not criticism or punishment. So with my count from 5 to 1, you'll be able to visualize these next 4 points easily and quickly, clearly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First, review a time when you had lower energy thoughts, words, or actions. May have been very understandable, justifiable with what you went through, but just let that time float up, pop in. And now, if other people were affected by your lower energy thoughts, words, deeds, what amends can you make now? Would that be a phone call, a letter, a repayment, asking for forgiveness? Again, don't think about it, just let it float in, pop up. Next, consider how you can better love, accept, and forgive yourself. To release the stuck energies associated with that and let it go. And finally, create a new energetic template about how you would, now that you're more aware and wise, handle that situation in the future. Excellent. And now let's repeat for one more less positive event, but a little quicker now that you know the ropes. First, review a time when you had lower energy thoughts, words, or actions. If those involved other people, what amends can you make now? Now visualize yourself loving, accepting, forgiving yourself, no matter what happened, releasing stuck energies and letting it go. And to wrap that up, create a new energetic template about how you will in the future handle things better now that you're more awakened, aware, wise. Now, just a little final guidance time and healing shower from your spiritual support team, soaking up all the love, unconditional regard from your dear ones. Good. And now it's time to prepare to come back to the waking state, feeling relaxed and peaceful, more clearly remembering who you are, why you're here, and who walks beside you always and in all ways. With my count from 1 to 5, feel yourself slowly, gently coming back. 1, 2, 3. Feeling the chair under your body, the clothes you're wearing. 4, wiggling your toes and fingers a bit. And 5, when you're ready, opening your eyes. And when you're ready, I welcome you to share. First of all, if you didn't have much of an experience, keep in mind, especially if it's your first time doing this, keep in mind this was like a kind of a rush job. We're covering a lot of bases here in our hour together, but it's the first exposure. But at this point, any questions, anything you want to share about what you did or did not experience? Open mic. And enable your video, please. Right now I'm seeing like 3 people and a whole bunch of names. There we go. Thank you. Who is the first brave soul to venture forward with a question or comment? Lisa, yes.
Um, so during the part when you said walk through the tunnel, I'm trying to remember your wording. So yeah, you said something like if you've done this before, then I won't see much because I wasn't seeing much. Was that what you said?
Well, my comment was that you're feeling anticipation, excitement, or perhaps a little concern, depending on how many times you've gone to Earth and returned.
Yeah. I didn't feel any excitement or anything. I just felt just like I've done it. Like I guess I've done it before, or I didn't have any fear or anything like that either.
Good. Well, that suggests that you've been around the block a few times. Souls who have, I mean, 100, 500, 1,000 incarnations in different space, time, dimensions. And keep in mind, these are all mostly like virtual reality experiences, but that's not an unusual number. So, yeah, if you've been to Earth or other realms and then come back home, it's like, okay, it's kind of like, taking a trip. Okay, we're back at the airport, going home again.
But I didn't really see. I didn't really see. I remember one time who I saw another time, but I didn't see any of them this time.
Hmm.
Like as family members that passed.
Yeah, well, that's not the primary goal of this one. That's the afterlife contact. I just mentioned that, I mean, in reality, you understand they're around you. And so it's good to give them thanks and um, elicit their support while you're going through this experience. Anything else?
No, I know it got bright. It was the tunnel was dark, but then it got bright. I remember the like brightness, but I didn't really see anyone. I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure.
And in other experiences, Lisa, have you been able to visualize clearly?
Yeah, I had something that did happen. I
Okay.
had a near-death experience. I did see my grandparents. I saw my great aunt Millie. I saw
Hmm.
a couple of other
Well,
relatives.
yeah, we'll read article number 45. There's a whole list of pre-session recommendations. So, you want to make sure you're rested and there aren't any interferences. And then try it again. But if you still feel blocked, shoot me an email to you and everyone else, mark@soulproof.com. Don't feel bad about taking my time. It takes me about 3 minutes, and I will send you, read this article or do this. Okay?
All right.
Always a
Thank you.
pleasure. Maria, you're up next.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah. So the one thing that I wanted to share that was really interesting is that towards the end you said we have like a rain shower to heal us, right?
Healing shower. Hmm.
Right. So I didn't quite get that. What I got is energy pellets. These because I looked down and they were like square or rounded pellets that just came down, and I saw like energy, different colors coming down. So I knew physically I wasn't getting wet, but
Right.
it was energy, it was glowing all around me, which was
Yeah.
which was really a nice experience.
I'm curious, what color were these?
Um, they were blue, they were white, they were almost translucent.
Hmm, nice. Yeah, those are some of the higher energies, blue, indigo, violet, pure white light. So yeah, the word healing shower can be misleading. There's no water. There's
Okay,
no water involved. It's it's energy. It's an energetic shower.
that's
By the
exactly
way,
yeah.
yeah. So, well, that sounds like a good thing. Anything else you want to share or any questions?
Um, I think the letting go was really good for me. Um, as you know, Andrew passed away this March, and your mind, at least for me, it goes back. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have been, and you have all this guilt that comes with grief, and that could really, it's painful, and but letting go and shedding that was a good release for me, because I was able to say, what, and especially what you said, moving forward, what are you going to do moving forward? What can you do differently? And of course you can change the past, but you can change the present, and make plans for um, all the tomorrows that you're here. So that gives me hope, and so I'm better able to kind of give myself that acknowledgement that, okay, um, if I go down this rabbit hole of grief and pain, stop, give myself, like, hit the pause button and pull myself out of there,
Yeah.
because that's not where I want to be, and I am grateful more. So if you put a scale, I'm more grateful for all the love, albeit for the short years that he was here, than the loss, if that makes sense.
Oh, it sure does. And, also remember, as you say, it's just been March. I mean, you're doing incredibly well. I mean, you were, I think we first started working around each other in May or June, and you
That's
were then. So, but, it fine tunes. And yeah, the more heavenly we can feel and the less hellish, or the more we can remember the good
mm-hmm.
news, it's all good. And then it blesses others. Okay. Well, as always,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Liza, you're up next.
Hi, Mark. That was
Hello.
beautiful. I always want to, I'm always very emotional during your meditations, but this one, I had to run and get a tissue because I usually have them nearby, but I was bawling. I saw the aurora borealis. That's what I saw. Whenever I feel my son near in meditation, I'm usually in outer space because he loved astronomy,
Hmm.
and but this time I saw the aurora borealis, or that a version of that, and I was able to hug both my son Lucas and my mother, and I felt surrounded by my loved ones who were in spirit. I was able to pour my heart out to them, say I'm sorry for the things like Maria had said so beautifully, the what ifs and the should haves, which I know that I have to release that. So I was able to release that. And all I felt was forgiven. And they
Hmm.
kept saying, it's already forgiven. There was nothing to forgive. It's all forgiven. And I just felt so much love and peace. And it was absolutely beautiful, Mark. So thank you.
Well, my pleasure. You always take to these things like a duck to water. By the way, when you
You
say
make it easy.
forgiven, I'm reminded of a line from A Course in Miracles. It said, God doesn't forgive because she never condemned in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you,
good.
Mark. I'll be doing this again, article number 45 for sure. Thank you for everything, Mark, as always.
My pleasure. Thank you. Lynn is my co-host with the most. I wonder if you have any comments on this, or did you sleep through it like you usually do?
I did not sleep, but I was monitoring. So I wasn't going deep or doing it. So, but
Okay.
it was lovely.
Any thoughts? I know because you've done so many healing things since your dear Devon changed worlds. Any thoughts about any of this? Any words of wisdom you can pass on to parents?
I can't keep up with you. No. Nothing tonight.
Okay, well, those of you who've been around Lynn and I know that I have to tease her at least once, or she'll suspect I've been taken over by aliens. All right.
Love you,
Angela,
Mark.
you're up next.
Hi, I just had a quick, I felt a little bit, but I just thought it was kind of, eerie the road you had us go through
Right?
in the beginning. When my son first passed, I pictured the same road, and he was following me down it, and it was basically him saying goodbye. I said, "Where are you going, son?" And he says, "I gotta go, Mama." And I said, "Where are you going, son? Do you have a job?" And he said, "I don't have to work where I'm going, Mama." And that was the same road that I just saw. I was just curious of what you thought about that.
Well, first of all, when I was preparing for this today, I hesitated about the part where you see your no longer needed body and watching the funeral and watching the burial. I mean, that's pretty heavy when some of you, and it's not been that long. How long ago did your son move on?
It's been almost 7 years.
Okay, all right. But even so, I mean, it's pretty heavy. I mean, funerals and death and um, however, that's part of what we need to do to get to that point of having the life review technique. So the fact that you saw um, a similar view, I would say that means you are having a good experience. In other words, you were kind of recreating that. There was some carryover, what you experienced your son having and what you had in this session. So how did it go, Angela, with patting yourself on the back and letting things that you did well or not so well pop up? Did that work for you?
Yeah, it did. And especially the part where I had some positive moments after he passed and some negative moments, and it helped a lot with that. I felt it lift
Mm-hmm.
the
Okay.
guilt for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good experience. And for you and for everyone else, if you have any, like sometimes people will have dreams the night
Uh,
of the session or in the next week, or you'll have spontaneous memories or feelings. Well, that's part of this experience. It's part of the healing. But if you have any questions or concerns about any of those, shoot me an email, mark@soulproof.com. Okay?
okay.
All right,
Thank
dear
you.
one. Keep at it. I'm proud of you. And who we have up next? Ali? You're still muted, dear. Ali, you're in the lower left screen. There's a microphone icon. Click on it so there's not a red line through it. Nope, you're still muted. Okay, while you're working on that, Debbie, you're up next.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, it was a very beautiful experience for me. I felt like I was right there. Um, I must have been around quite a few times because I wasn't afraid. I was joyful to be standing in that tunnel with everyone around me. I thought it was
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a disco tunnel, though. It was kind of cool. It had all kinds of lights spiraling around. it was very good. I thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. Did you like disco back in the day?
A little bit.
Was John Travolta there? That's my question.
No, he was not. I didn't see him. But no, it was I felt very serene. It was really very peaceful and beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, life is serene. It's just we poor earthlings who are looking through that pinhole who are all worried and fearful for nothing. And one of the many benefits of this technique is it helps you experience what your kids experienced. You know, when their body died, they went back home, they saw the light, all this. So yeah, look what your people are saying. It was joyful and serene and peaceful, all that. That's what they felt, and that's what they're feeling now. So hopefully that helps at another level. Anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
All my pleasure. And how about Allie?
Hello. Sorry
Well, there
about
she is.
that.
Not a problem.
Mark, I have to agree with Debbie. For me, the entire process was very relaxing. I felt no fear as I was going through the death part. I think, in a sense, I'm also ready to go whenever my time is here to join my son. But I felt very calm and I cried, and that emotional release was beautiful and really, really healing. So I am so thankful that I joined, and thank you all at Helping Parents Heal too.
Yeah, beautifully said. And yeah, you put it well that just because we don't fear death doesn't mean we want it to be imminent. You know, we want to do what we came here and enjoy all the beauty and other family and friends and so on. However, what a difference knowing that, okay, when it does happen, no fear, no worries. You know, I think that's the kind of thing that Jesus meant when he said, you shall know the truth and the truth will set you free. So yeah, when you see the big picture of life, you're free. You're free from fear and worry and all that. And you let your light shine and even through challenges, make the best of each day. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
All right, take care. Well, we need to wrap. My dear brother Brian Smith is presenting at 8 o'clock, and I highly recommend what he's sharing. He's amazing, a dear friend. So remember all the resources we shared. You have this technique. Remember that we're there for you. Literally, whatever you need, we'll come up with it. So let me know, mark@soulproof.com. Contact Lynn, and we will get through this together, and we will shine more and more. And remember the meta goal, helping our world come together, helping so many people. Your kids are working on it. Let's do our parts. So God bless. Let's shine. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.